Hi friends, I'm Abby and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freak-out tag. And not that I'm really freaking out, it feels like this is a staple mid-year thing to do. I can't believe we're mid-year, but we pretty much are. I'm filming this in the middle of June. I just thought it'd be fun to talk through some of the highlights of my year to date, the things that I have been absolutely loving reading, things that have disappointed me, the peaks and troughs of 2024, and just reflect a little bit on these first 6 months and some of my plans and ambitions for the next 6 months. I always find this tag quite fun to do, just as a reflection on things. Question number 1, which is, what is your best book of 2024 to date? And this is so hard. So I'm just going to talk about a few books that I have been highlights of my year, because when I was making these lists I was trying to fit in different books for each question, and there were just some books that I hadn't fitted in, and I was like, but you are favourites and I want to make sure that I'm talking about you in this tag and highlighting them, because this is the chance to highlight everything. So the first book that did go down for this answer is the Dreamer's Pool series by Juliette Marillier. I have read through the whole trilogy this year, so it's the trilogy that I'm putting on here. Every book was a standout book. They were all amazing. I have loved this trilogy. So I read the first one in March and then the second two in April. I think that was it. And April wasn't an amazing reading month for me, but it was amazing in terms of the quality, because I read books 2 and 3 in this series and I was just obsessed with this. This is called the Blackthorn and Grimm series. We're following our two main characters, Blackthorn and Grimm. And at the beginning of the book, they are both in a prison lockup. We don't really know why at the beginning, and that sort of gets unearthed as the series goes on. And at the beginning of the book, Blackthorn gets presented with a deal that if she does not seek revenge for 7 years on the people that have wronged her, and she goes out into the world and heals, as that was her previous profession, and goes to this town and lives there, then this fairy folk will free her from this prison. And so she goes, well, I'm due to die tomorrow. My execution is for tomorrow. So yes, I accept this deal. I do want to take my revenge. I'm very bitter about what has happened, but I will accept your deal and I will do this, and it will be what it will be. And so we follow Blackthorn and Grimm, who escapes with her, as they journey to this destination and then set up there. And there's lots of folktale mixed in throughout each of the books, so there is sort of a mystery fairy tale folktale element in each book that stands alone, but the plot continues through all 3 of the books with Blackthorn and Grimm and the journey that they are going on. It's set in a medieval Ireland, so I just love the setting. Oh, I just love this book. I just love this whole series. It was so immersive, and Juliette Marillier's books are slow. They're slow, they're quite dark at times. She really does mix in some pretty grim topics, but they're just so beautiful and atmospheric, and I for some reason fly through them. I'm going, I know this is slow, but I am hooked. I am absolutely hooked to what's going on here. So I loved this series and it has been one of my favourites of the year. And then the ones that I just wanted to mention, I had Dreamer's Pool in for that question, but I just wanted to mention these before we get into best sequel. I read all of the War of Lost Hearts series by Carissa Broadbent, and I don't think this series is as good as The Seven Wings of Night, which I read last year, but I still really enjoyed it. So just putting it in, this is a top tier fantasy romance series with, I think, more of an emphasis on the fantasy elements. And we start in the main book with our main character Tizana trying to buy her freedom, with things going a little bit awry, and her journeying to this academy where she can train her magic, and she meets Max, who becomes her trainer, and things go from there as she tries to with her desire to journey back to where she comes from and free the rest of her peoples. Really enjoyed this whole series, this whole trilogy, so would definitely recommend it. I love Carissa Broadbent's writing style. It just flows. Now moving on to best sequel. So obviously the sequels in those series, because I read both of those series through to completion, are very, very good. Would 100% recommend all of those sequels as well. But one where I've just read a sequel in the series, because I read the first book last year, is The Battle Drum by Zara El Arifi. The first book in this series is The Final Strife. So I love The Final Strife. I read it in November time, and then I was trying to delay reading this because I know that the third book is coming out in the summer or September or sometime later this year. The third book is coming out. Looking forward to that. And this just really continued in the same level as The Final Strife. It can be a little bit, I don't know, nerve-wracking, I guess, going into a sequel, and it's knowing if it's going to have middle book syndrome, if it's going to be a good continuation, if I'm going to love it as much as I love that first book. And this really stuck that not the landing, because it's not the finale, which I really do hope that sticks the landing. But this really continued this series in such a good way. This series, it's like a multi-perspective story set in this world which has a sort of elitist system based on your blood. So red bloods are in control, they have magic, they are the wealthy and the elite of the world. The blue bloods are sort of below them, they do all the menial tasks, they're looked down upon. And then there are the clear bloods, which are extremely looked down upon, and they try to rebel a few hundred years ago prior to the start of the book. And so now everyone that is a clear blood has their tongues cut out and their hands cut off so that they can prevent any communication and rebelling from that populace ever again. We know that 12 years prior to the start of this book, blue bloods and red bloods have been switched at birth so that red-blooded babies can be raised as blue bloods, and then they can infiltrate the system and rebel and turn things like around from the inside. And then there are these sets of trials that we get into, and it's a multi-perspective story, and I think it's so well like crafted. The world building in this is so good. It was so good in the first book, and I think it was really built upon in this one, and everything was just expanded and opened up, and I was like, oh yeah. And I really like our characters. They're not the most likable, but because they're very flawed, they're so flawed, but I really enjoyed reading from them. So would 100% recommend this series, and really looking forward to seeing how it concludes. And in my opinion, I much prefer this series to the Feybound series. I enjoyed Feybound, but it does not like stand up to this series. Right, and then the next question is, what are some new releases that have come out that you have not got to yet? So your new releases TBR. And I feel like I've done a relatively good job this year at reading my new releases. Or the ones that I've been buying, I've been reading and like getting through. So I'm quite happy with that. Over the past couple of months, I have done quite well with mixing like some of my older TBR books with some new releases and like going back and forth. I've read Funny Story, I've read The Familiar, I've read The Warm Hands of Ghosts, I've read A Fate Inked in Blood. Like I've been getting through them. I've been like doing a good job of keeping up with my new releases. But I do still have a few that I have not got to. Quite a few of these are very new releases. So I'm really excited to, and I have actually started this morning, When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. This is a new fantasy romance with dragons, and I have good vibes from the first 50 or so pages. 62 pages that I've read. I have good vibes about this. This is definitely a new release that I'm excited about. I have a couple of romances, so Not Enough by Ali Hazelwood, her latest release. I've read everything. Ali Hazelwood, love them. They're generally STEM-centered romances, so excited to dive into this. And then speaking of romance, I have Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, which I've been planning to read for a little while. I just hadn't picked it up, so now I have it. I can read these, so hopefully I can intersperse these two romances in between some more heavier fantasy books. So yeah, excited for both of these. But as you can see, I haven't had loads like sitting on my TBR because I've been reading them. I have been sent a couple of books from publishers that I haven't got to yet over the course of this year. So I have been sent both Fathom Folk by Eliza Chan, which is the start of a fantasy duology with a water setting, I believe. And then also Kavithri by Aman J. Bedi. So which is, I think it's the start of a series, but South Asian inspired with, I don't know, poppy war type vibes. So I do need to get both of these. Maybe I should do a vlog of reading books that I've got, releases that I was sent and not got to. Yeah, because I was also being sent, I've been doing very well with things with Orbit and Galax and publishers sending me things this year. So very fortunate there, so thank you. I've also sent The Gods Below by Andrea Stewart. So this one's not out yet, this comes out in September, but I am going to an author event in July with Andrea Stewart, so I would like to get to this ahead of then. I read and enjoyed her other series, The Bone Shard Daughter, so because I've enjoyed that one so much, I would really like to get into this and then hopefully like get it signed when she's here along with those books. So I figured like that's a good like personal deadline to myself to read this by. So despite doing so well at reading some of my new releases, I've actually still got quite a few that I haven't read. But now moving into some of my anticipated releases and things that I'm really looking forward to. And there are still quite a few. There are still quite a few things that I'm looking forward to. I mean, I spoke about looking forward to the third book in the Ending Fire series by Zara El-Arifi, looking forward to that. One of the big ones for me is my love of John Gwynne, and the third book in the Bloodsworn series comes out later this year. So excited. I haven't read like some John Gwynne in ages. If you don't know, I love John Gwynne's books. I have a whole video gushing about his books. I read all of the Faithful and Fallen, all of the Bloodsworn saga, all of the what's it called? All of the Of Blood and Bone. Love his books. Absolutely adore Jongwon's books. So I'm looking forward to rereading The Shadow of the Gods, The Hunger of the Gods, and then reading the new one that comes out, I think it's like November time. So excited. So excited. Yeah, really excited for more Jongwon. Yeah, to get back into my like Jongwon era. And then Carissa Broadbent, who I've read everything that she has now released, has a new book coming out in, I think that's November as well. So that's the third book in the Chronicles of Nyaxia and the first book in the next like duology within that world. So really excited to read that. And I guess like Wind and Truth is coming out. I mean, I know that everyone's going to have that as like an anticipated release, but I haven't finished Rhythm of War. I haven't done Rhythm of War yet. So I'm anticipating it, but I'm also not anticipating it. In terms of that, I don't anticipate I will read it in December. I anticipate I will probably get it, but I don't anticipate that I will have it read in 2024. So in some ways I'm anticipating it, in some ways I'm not anticipating it as much as I believe a lot of other people are. Disappointments, right, where have I put those? I do have a couple. Okay, yes, I have disappointments. I do have disappointments. So I've got 2 disappointments here. And the thing is, I've had books that I've rated lower than this, but those were books that I wasn't like anticipating I was going to like. And these books I anticipated I was going to love and I was going to really enjoy. And I might have given these 5 stars. And they disappointed me because they were not 5 stars. Not even 4 stars. They just disappointed. There are worse books. These aren't the worst books of the year. They're the biggest disappointments. I have Fireborn by Rosaria Munda, which I really thought I was going to love. I thought I was going to love this, and it was just so average. It was so average for me, and I'm so sad about it. This is like a YA dragon fantasy. There was a rebellion, how many, 10, 12 years prior. We're following 2 kids that are training to be dragons in this new world. Not training to be dragon riders, if I didn't specify that they were riding the dragons. They can't turn into dragons. And I just found this so fine. It was just so fine. And I was like, why is this not a 5 star? Why is this not a 5 star? Why is this just fine? My hopes were dashed. Also, on this, I have started putting some things on Vinted to sell. So I will link that down below. I don't think I've listed this yet. I have a massive box of books. So whenever I've done an on-haul, I put things in this massive box of books. Sometimes I've taken things to charity shops. Sometimes I haven't, because I'm like, I'm going to sell those. I'll sell those, and then I never sell them. They just sit in the massive box of books in the cupboard. So I've listed like 10, 12 things, slowly like adding the 60 or 7, I don't even know how many books, the massive box of books to that. So if you're interested in anything, probably if you're in the UK, there are books going on that I've had for many years from like many unhauls. And then the other disappointment is The Trials of Empire by Richard Swan, which I never even finished. I got 200 pages in and gave up. So yes, this was a major disappointment. I have very, like, the Justice of Kings I liked but didn't love, but I was like, I'm still interested to continue on with the series. Then The Tyranny of Faith was like standout, amazing, loved it, like absolutely loved that book. The second book in the series, it was amazing. It was so good. And then this has just nosedived. It absolutely nosedived for me. I was like, I have zero interest in what is going on here. Zero interest. Why is this not holding my attention? Why is this such a struggle? Why are they just running around everywhere and not actually achieving anything? It was just like, we've got to do this, then this, then this, then this, then this. And I was like, no, thank you. So I guess I do still have the bookmark in here, but this has been on pause for months and I don't think I'm going to go back to it. And I marked the series as like done. So I'm just done. And done and disappointed. And surprises I take as like, it was a positive surprise. I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I did. So positive surprises, not that the book like shocked me where I was like mouth open. It was more like I didn't realise I was going to like it as much as I did. Not that it had a massive cliffhanger. So I was surprised that I enjoyed Book of Night by Holly Black as much as I did. So I'd seen so many mixed reviews for this one. It is a like paranormal fantasy set in our world, but where your shadows have magic. And it's not like I absolutely adored this book. I just thought it was like a solid start to a fantasy duology. I gave it, I think, 4 stars. I enjoyed the writing style. I enjoyed the plot movements. I enjoyed the characters. I'm not a massive fan of like the paranormal setting. I just much prefer an epic fantasy setting, but I enjoyed it. And because of all these mixed reviews where people were DNFing it, people didn't like it, I think that was just people's expectations. People wanted this to be more like the Folk of the Air series. They'd read The Cruel Prince because that is her most hyped book, and they thought it was going to be like that, and it's not. It's not. And I just enjoyed this. I enjoyed this for what it was, so it pleasantly surprised me. And then this one, I thought I was going to enjoy it. I did think I was going to enjoy this one, but I just wanted to mention it, and this is the best place for me to slot it in. I have literally just finished this book, and I have had this book for years, and I had not read it, and Fish from Books with V has been telling me to read it, and I really loved The Hell of Midnight by Marina Lostetta. And I guess the surprise is that I've had this book for so long. I've had this book for so long, and it's been sat on my shelf, unloved, unread. Well, not really unloved, it's just been unread. It's just been sat on that TBR for a very, very long time, and I have finally read this. It is like a epic fantasy, and in this world, when you die, your like memories and soul can be put into like a mask, and then people can wear that mask and they can like obtain your knowledge or the knowledge that you had in your life. So if you were a doctor, everything that you've learned to be a doctor can be put into this mask, and then another person can put it on, and suddenly they know how to cure X disease. And one mask has been created by from the mind of a serial killer, and that mask has recently been stolen, so we're trying to unearth like where this mask has got to, trying to prevent the deaths from occurring again. And it's a multi-perspective story set over like different timelines, so we follow these 3 perspectives, but one of them's in the present day chasing down what's happening, and then 2 are from the past, and it all like interweaves together as it comes to this conclusion. I found the world building so interesting. I can't wait to find out more about the world. So I did think I was gonna like it, but I'm just sad that this was sat on my shelf for so long, and then I've loved it so much, and now I need to continue on with the series. So it was just a pleasant, like, what a gem that I've had, a hidden gem that I've had on my shelf for so long. And this will be in a vlog, because I am vlogging currently. The next question is on a new favourite author. So for this, to count them as a new favourite author, I have to have read like a good few books from them. I can't just have read one book. I've just read one book here. It's just one book. I can't say that this is a new favourite author. And actually, for quite a few of the books that I've read this year, I have read from the authors previously. So they aren't new favourite authors. But one author that I have read 4 books from this year that I've really enjoyed, they are all in the same series, but I have really enjoyed them, is Deanna Raybourn, who writes the Veronica Speedwell series. So I've read the first 4 books in this series. It is a historical murder mystery. Each book has a unique like mystery to it, but there is an overarching plot with our main character Veronica Speedwell. She is a bit out there for her time. She is a lepidoporus, a butterfly collector, very much in the science field, does not really want to abide by society's conventions in the Victorian era. She is working with another scientist called Stoker, and it is the things that they all get up to, and I really enjoy the way that the relationships are built through this series. I think that's done really well. I'm looking forward to actually reading the 5th book. I need to get that one because I've got 6, 7 and 8, but I haven't got the 5th one. But really excited to continue on with the series, and so it's just been like a highlight of like slowly making my way through this series this year. And the 4th book, I think, which I most recently read, was my favourite so far to date. And actually continuing on for this, the next question is your like newest fictional crush. I changed these ones. So the next 2 questions are fictional crush and then favourite character. I changed fictional crush to fictional crush question to male character and then female character, just because I feel like that's better for who I am as a reader. That although I do read fantasy romance, a lot of the time those men don't really do it for me. I do really like Stoker in this series. Him and Veronica, their relationship is like so back and forth. The banter that they have, I really enjoy. It's like, will they, won't they, will they, won't they? And it's been building, and it just builds and builds and builds. I think he's got a lot of like depth and character to him as we unearth bits and pieces from his past and the traumas that he has been through. I feel like I'd like to meet him. Yeah, I'd happily meet him. I'd very happily, yeah, meet him. But I don't think I would do as good a job as Veronica at like conversing with him, because she seems to manage his moods very well. And then for favourite female character, I'm bringing back Blackthorn from Dreamer's Pool. I love Blackthorn. She is like a troubled I don't know, mid-30s. She's written as like middle-aged in this, or people see her as middle-aged, because this is in the ages where people probably died in their like 40s, so she probably is considered old. But I enjoyed that she was like this well-rounded character. She's lived her life, but she's still young. She's still young enough. In our age, I'm probably, because like, if I was there, I would be considered old. But she knows her own mind. She's been through a lot prior to these books. She knows what she wants. She's troubled. She knows that she wants this revenge for past wrongs, but like, is that the healthiest way for her to be? Yeah, she's this healer. She wants to do good for people, but then she also doesn't want to do good because she wants to be by herself and just live her own life without having any interference with people. I just really enjoyed reading from her perspective and seeing the things that she was going through, and I felt for her. I felt for her a lot. Her and Grimm, like both of them. I was like, you too. So they just felt, I think Juliet Marie does a really good job at like fleshing out characters, making them feel real and believable, and then all the relationships that they have. Friendships, romantic pairings, like family. I think she does a really good job at creating those relationships and the exposition behind them, and just really fleshing everything out. Okay, the next question is a book that has made you cry, and I don't think I've cried this year. I don't think I've cried. I don't think I have. But a book that definitely made me feel emotional, and one that I finished recently, was The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden. I didn't cry, but it definitely has some emotional heartstrings in this book. It's set during World War I. We're following main character Laura, who has been discharged from the army. She was a nurse working there, but got injured in an airstrike and was discharged back to Canada. But her brother has gone missing, and so she's like, I need to go back. I know I'm a bit injured, but I need to go back. I need to find out what's happened to my brother. Nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense. I need to find him. And then there is this sort of fantastical element to it as well. And I think this was very raw. It was a very raw book to read. I think war in and of itself is quite a dark topic, but it's got multiple timelines in this. We are following Laura as she's investigating what's going on, and then we also follow her brother and like the events that he was going through. It didn't make me cry, but it was definitely emotional. It was definitely an emotional read. I would really recommend this. I read this in June, and I would recommend it. It probably is not a June read, but the weather here in England, in London, the summer's not arrived. It feels like it's still winter here. Like, it's still quite cold. And I'm like, when is summer happening? When is summer going to be happening? Because it's not happening yet. It still fit the mood, even though it probably is more of a wintry read. And then in contrast to that, some books that made you happy. So I have read a couple of romances, and I feel like romances are books that make you happy. Like, they're fun, they're like joyful. You sort of know where they're going to get to. Like, you know where it's going to end. You know that you're going to probably have a good time. And so I would say that these are typically books that make me happy. So a couple to just call out. I really enjoyed reading Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. This actually surprised me as well, because I expected this to read quite young because it's marketed as YA. I actually feel like this is more new adult. That it's definitely not as steamy as some of her adult books, but these characters are like 20. Like, they're not, I was expecting, when I think of YA and YA contemporary, that people are going to be 15, and no. These were like 20 odd, and I was like, I'm not going to relate to like 15-year-olds, but these actually felt like just young adults. They were adults. So it's a chess-centered romance. I enjoyed it. It's just a lot of fun. I just find her writing so bingeable and easy to read, and like compulsive. And another compulsively readable story was Funny Story by Emily Henry. I love Emily Henry. She can do no wrong. She can do no wrong. I have loved like all of her books that I've read. So I've read all of her romances, and I just love them. I just absolutely love them. I love the characters that she creates and the way that she weaves the stories together. I think that's done so well. I love both of these authors, and I've read pretty much everything they've released. So these books just make me happy. And you need that balance. You need those books that make you happy, the books that make you like emotional, the intense epic fantasies, a whole range. The mixture is needed. And then in terms of beautiful books, I think I've read off a few beautiful books in this. Like, already, The Warm Hands of Ghosts is beautiful. It is beautiful. This one is beautiful. Like, these edges, oh, beautiful. This map, beautiful. I mean, it's blue. I love the colour blue. But one that I've not talked about is The Atlas Complex by Olivia Blake, the third book. This is the Fairy Loot edition because I got the first book in Fairy Loot, so I've been collecting them all in the same editions. I no longer have Fairy Loot, none of their subscriptions. I figured that actually Waterstones do some great editions. These two are both Waterstones editions. Waterstones do some amazing editions nowadays, and I then can choose the books that I want to be special, and I'm not locked into like a subscription of books that I might not necessarily have picked. But this one was an add-on as a third book, and I do think it's very pretty. I love purple. Me and purple are like a good combo, I think. I just love the colour. I love the colour. So it's got really nice like edges. It's got a nice purple cover. So that is another beautiful edition. It is also one that I need to read. I need to reread, this is the final question, what are some books that you need to read before the end of the year? I need to reread The Atlas 6 and then read the sequel and then read The Atlas Complex and finish this series off. It's been like one of my targets to read this series this year. Hasn't quite happened yet, but I think it will. I think it will. I did actually like look at this book the other day and I was like, oh yeah, you could be the one. And then I was like, nah, let's read Helm of Midnight. So it didn't happen yet, but I feel as though its time is coming. Its time is coming, and this will happen before the end of the year. One that I've been meaning to read since April. In April I made a big TBR about reading this book, and I did start the book and I got 225 pages in. It is Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson, which means I still have like 1,000 pages to go. I don't know what was happening with my reading momentum. I had no momentum. That was the issue. I had no momentum. And so I was like reading 10 pages a night. I was reading 10 pages a day. I wasn't getting anywhere with it. It was like the third week of the month and I just hadn't read anything. And I was like, we're just gonna put this down. This is not the way that you want to be reading this book. You don't want to be reading 10 pages a day because then you're not getting through it. You're not getting anywhere. And it wasn't good. I was enjoying it. I was enjoying what I was reading. I just had no time. So I put it down. I've been reading some other things. I will get back to this. I have picked up the audiobook, so then I could immersion read it and like get through things hopefully with a bit more pace. But I definitely need to read this by the end of the year. I will read it, I will vlog it. I do have a clip. I don't even know what's happened to that clip of my first chunk. So I do need to like find that, but this. And then I don't know where it is now. I have already mentioned it. I would like to continue on with the Veronica Speedwell series. I'm about halfway through the released books. Are there 8 books or 9 books out? Anyway, I've read the first 4. I have 6, 7, 8. I need to get 5, and then I think there's 9 books out actually. But I would like to continue on with that. I mean, now that I've just finished things like this, I would like to continue on with this series. So there's definitely lots of things out there. All those releases that I showed earlier, would love to read those. I would also like to try and read some of my older books on my TBR. I feel like I did a really good job of that in May, where I was like going between new release and older TBR, and hopefully I can continue with that momentum because there are books that I've had on my TBR for far too long, and I would really like to get to some of them because there are hidden gems. There are gems on there. So I would like to try and get to a few of my like older TBR books and work my way through them. Then the issue is that a lot of them are first books in series and I end up having to buy a series. Like I then get stuck reading the series, but that's fine as long as I'm making progress. So those are some ideas. There are obviously plenty of other things that I am that I've enjoyed this year, that I'm looking forward to reading, that have just been like the general highlights and lowlights, but this is not even that quick of a run through of my 2024 to date. Let me know some of the highlights that you have had so far in 2024, whether that's highs or lows, and thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my future videos. Bye.